It started with a letter. A thick white envelope slid under my door one morning, stamped with the cold authority of the Homeowners Association. Inside, in bold black print, were the words that would ignite a storm I never asked for. Violation fee, $5,000. I stared at it, confused. My house was spotless, my yard trimmed, my driveway clear. I paid my dues on time every single month. Yet here it was, a demand for money that made no sense. At the bottom was a signature, sharp and angry in its strokes. Neighborhood knew her, middle-aged, blonde, and ruthless behind her polite smile. She wasn't just part of the HOA, she was the HOA, and if she didn't like you... Clerical error, Cy called. Her voice was smug, syrupy, like she'd been waiting for me to dial. "Oh, it's no mistake," she said. "Your trash bins were left out overnight. That's a violation. $5,000. But her silence on the other end told me she was dead serious. She wasn't enforcing rules, she was enforcing power. I refused, flat out told her I wouldn't pay. And that's when it began. Karen didn't take rejection well. The very next day I woke up to find a bright red notice plastered across my front door. Further action pending, neighbors whispered as they walked by. Some shook their heads in sympathy. Others avoided my eyes. Everyone knew crossing Karen came with consequences, but I wasn't about to be bullied in my own home. I started documenting everything, every phone call, every letter, every photo of my property. Something about the way she was pushing this felt off. It wasn't just an HOA fine anymore. It was personal. It was malicious. And then things escalated. A black SUV started parking across from my house at night, headlights off, engine idling. I'd catch glimpses of Karen standing on her porch, watching, smiling faintly like she knew something I didn't. My mail began arriving opened. Nothing was taken. It was intimidation. Plain and simple. I wanted to fight back legally, but something inside me whispered to stay patient because the game Karen was playing felt bigger than just HOA harassment. Just as Karen prepared to file a lien against my property for non-payment, 3 unmarked black cars pulled into the cul-de-sac. Men in dark suits stepped out, flashing badges that froze the air around us. FBI, they didn't knock. They didn't hesitate. They went straight for Karen's door. I stood there, heart pounding, as they surrounded her house. Neighbors peeked. Through blinds, dogs barked. Karen stepped outside, confusion plastered on her face, still holding a glass of wine, as if she could talk her way out of anything. But not this time. When I saw those agents put her in handcuffs, I realized the fine wasn't the real story at all. The real story was just beginning. Karen's arrest should have been the end of it. The neighborhood buzzed for days, whispers floating like wildfire. The FBI took her. She's done for. Guess all those fines finally caught up with her. To her doorstep, something deeper was buried beneath her fake smiles and manicured lawns. And somehow I was part of it now. That night, after the arrest, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in my house felt like a warning. I finally gave in, sitting at my desk, pulling out the folders of evidence I'd been collecting. Letters, notices, threats. One detail stood out. The signature at the bottom of my violation. Sharp, exaggerated, loops, almost like she wanted to prove ownership of every word. But on one of the earlier HOA letters, the signature looked different, softer, more controlled. Like someone else had signed it. That's when it hit me. Karen wasn't just making up fines. She was forging documents. The next day, the neighborhood was eerily quiet. People avoided mentioning her name. The HOA office was locked, its blinds drawn, but when I checked my mailbox, my stomach dropped. Another envelope. Another notice, this one dated 2 days after her arrest. My pulse raced as I tore it open. Final warning, non-compliance. Immediate legal seizure authorized. Signed Egan by Karen. I froze. She was in custody. She couldn't have sent this, which meant someone else was behind it. Someone still watching me later that evening as the sun bled into the horizon. I saw movement at the end of the cul-de-sac. A man in a dark jacket stood near my trash cans, pretending to scroll on his phone. He wasn't a neighbor. I knew everyone who lived there. When I stepped outside, he looked up, his face expressionless, and slowly walked away without a word. That was the moment I realized. Karen wasn't acting alone. The FBI didn't just take her because of HOA corruption. They took her because she was part of something bigger, something that reached beyond fines and HOA politics. And somehow, I stood there in the fading light, staring at that forged letter in my hand. I knew. The storm wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The knock on my door came just after midnight. Sharp, heavy, unrelenting. I froze, heart hammering in my chest. For a moment, I thought it was Karen, that she had somehow walked free, ready to finish what she started. But when I peered through the peephole, I saw them. 2 men in dark suits, badges, raised FBI.I, opened the door slowly, my voice shaky. "Can I help you?" To talk about your HOA president Karen, I let them in my living room, suddenly too small for the weight they carried. They didn't sit, they didn't smile. One of them dropped a folder onto my coffee table. It slid open, revealing photos, documents, bank statements, things that didn't belong to a neighborhood HOA. The agent leaned forward. Karen wasn't just writing fines. As a cover, he continued. Every violation fee, every bogus penalty, it all funneled into shell accounts. Accounts tied to a larger criminal network. We've been tracking her for months, but then you refused to pay. I blinked, stunned. My refusal exposed her. Exactly, the agent said. She needed silence. You didn't give it. The SUV parked outside, the forced garage door, the forged letters. None of it had been paranoia. It was all real. And then, the shorter agent spoke, his voice quieter, more deliberate. We believe Karen has accomplices still in this neighborhood, people who don't want her secrets out, people who may come after you. The words lodged in my chest like ice. So, what do I do now? The agent didn't hesitate. You stay alert. You document everything. And if anything feels wrong, you call us before it's too late. They left as quickly as they came, their car disappearing into the night. I sat there in the silence, the folders still open on my table. Photographs of Karen at meetings that weren't HOA related. Transactions for hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled overseas. A list of names, some I recognized, some I didn't. But one name caught my eye. It was circled in red, bold, familiar, a neighbor, someone who lived only a few houses down. And in that instant, I realized I wasn't just fighting Karen anymore. I was living inside a nest of snakes. The next few days felt like living on borrowed time. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow cast across my window sent a chill through me. The folder the FBI left behind sat on my desk like a ticking bomb, and the name circled in red. Neighbor, just for houses downburned in my mind. Mark. On the surface, he was friendly enough. A quiet man in his late 40s, always mowing his lawn at the same time every Saturday. Always waving politely when cars drove by. But now, every one of those gestures felt rehearsed, manufactured, and when I saw him standing at his mailbox the next morning, staring at me just a little too long, I knew. He knew that I knew. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me. I checked the locks 3 times, pulled the curtains tight, and sat in the dark, waiting. Around midnight, I heard a faint crunch of gravel outside my side yard. Someone was there. I grabbed my phone, ready to call the FBI, but when I peeked through the blinds, my stomach knotted. It was Mark, dressed in dark clothes, moving slowly along the edge of my house. He wasn't out for a walk. He was looking for a way in. My breath caught as he tested the side gate, easing it open with deliberate silence. My instincts screamed at me to do something, but fear rooted me in place. This wasn't just HOA drama anymore. This was survival. I backed away from the window, my phone trembling in my hands. But before I could dial, the sound of my back door handle turning echoed through the house. Metal scraping against metal, he was trying to force his way. Inside, I bolted to the kitchen, heart pounding, grabbing the only thing within reach, a heavy wrench. Every muscle in my body was electric, bracing for the door to swing open. And then, silence. The handle stopped moving. The yard went still. I held my breath, waiting for footsteps, for glass to shatter, for anything. Instead, I heard a faint whisper through the door, "You should have paid, neighbor. You should have stayed quiet." The words slid under my skin like ice water. By the time I found the courage to throw the door open, he was gone. The yard was empty, the gate left swinging in the night air. But on the doorstep, taped to the wood, was another letter. No envelope, no seal. Just 3 words scrawled across the page in Karen's unmistakable handwriting. "This isn't over." And in that moment, I knew I wasn't just a target. I was the next name on their list. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The words on that letter, "This isn't over," burned into my brain like a warning I couldn't outrun by dawn. My decision was made. I wasn't going to wait for the next shadow at my door. I grabbed the FBI folder, stuffed it into a bag, and drove straight to their field office. If Mark and Karen's people wanted silence, then I would be louder than ever. The agents listened. They studied the forged letters, the photos, the threats, and when I told them about Mark creeping around my yard, they exchanged a look I'll never forget, like everything had just clicked into place. "He's not just an accomplice," one agent said, his voice grim. "He's the link we've been waiting for." They moved fast. That night, unmarked cars once again filled the neighborhood. But this time, they weren't here for Karen. They were here for Mark. I watched from my window as agents surrounded his house, weapons drawn, voices commanding him to step outside. And when he finally emerged, pale and shaking, I saw something I didn't expect: fear. The same kind of fear he had tried to put in me. But it wasn't over, not yet. Because, as they dragged him away, one of the agents came to my door. His expression was heavy, his words even heavier. "You should know, this network runs deeper than just your HOA. Karen and Mark were small pieces of a larger machine. And now, because you stood up to them, you've become a key witness. That makes you valuable, but it also makes you a target." The weight of his warning sank into me like stone. I wasn't just some homeowner fighting a $5,000 fine anymore. I was part of something far bigger than I'd ever imagined. When the dust finally settled and the sirens faded into the night, I stepped outside. Neighbors peeked from behind their blinds, pretending not to see, pretending they hadn't known what Karen and Mark were. The air was thick with silence, as if the whole street was holding its breath. I looked down at my doorstep, the same place, where Karen's threat had once been taped. But now, for the first time, it was empty. And I realized something: Karen had tried to buy my silence with fear. Mark had tried to break me with intimidation. But I never gave in. I never paid. I never folded. And because of that, because I stood my ground, the truth came out: the FBI may have taken them away. But in the end, it wasn't just law enforcement that brought them down. It was me, one homeowner, one refusal, one voice that wouldn't be silenced. And as I closed my door that night, I knew the battle wasn't over. But I also knew something else. Neither was I.